Hello friends, and welcome to another video lecture on topic D4.1 natural selection. This is our additional higher level content. Our guiding questions continue to be what processes can cause changes in allele frequencies within a population, and what is the role of reproduction in the process of natural selection. Our objectives for today, we're going to talk about gene pools, talk about how evolution can be a change in the frequencies of alleles in a gene pool. We're going to look at different types of selection, directional, stabilizing, and disruptive. We're going to use the Hardy-Weinberg equation, talk about conditions required for Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium to be met. We're going to talk a lot about gene pools in this video lecture. Gene pools are all the genes and their different alleles in a population. In our class, we watched this video, The 5 Fingers of Evolution. If you are not in my class or if you were absent that day, highly recommend that you find this video. Just Google TED Ed 5 Fingers of Evolution. It's so good. In the video, we use the analogy of a deck of cards being like all the alleles that are available in a population. These decks of cards, these gene pools, are simply reshuffled from one generation to the next. Organisms that are more fit are more likely to keep their cards in the deck. Genetic equilibrium occurs when all the members of a population have an equal chance of keeping their cards in the deck if their alleles are equally likely to get passed on to the next generation. Evolution occurs when we're changing the frequencies of these alleles in a deck. So this picture is showing 50% red and 50% black. If something were to happen and the frequencies change to maybe 75% red and only 25% black cards, then evolution would have occurred. Gene pool, all the genes, all of the alleles, the frequencies of those alleles in a population. Remember that a population is a group of organisms of the same species in the same place at the same time. Because we can have populations of the same species in different places, we can put humans in more than one location on the planet. We can have multiple populations, and therefore we can also have multiple gene pools. This map is showing us the frequency of sickle cell trait across the planet. This data table is actually showing us the frequency of just the allele that leads to sickle cell compared to the frequency of the normal hemoglobin allele. Remember that sickle cell is a mutation. It is a single nucleotide polymorphism. We're going to switch out a T for an A. That's going to give us a uracil in our messenger RNA and a valine instead of glutamic acid in our hemoglobin protein. That's going to cause the hemoglobin proteins to clump up, which causes the red blood cells, the erythrocytes, to curl up into little sickles. The frequency of sickle cell is different in different populations. Different locations on the planet have different frequencies of these alleles. We can see here that in Qatar it's quite high, whereas in Egypt it's quite low. These different frequencies are due to different gene pools, different environmental factors causing one allele to be more beneficial over another. Darwin described evolution as this change in the inheritable traits of a population because he didn't know about DNA and genes and alleles. It wasn't until Mendel and August Weismann and Thomas Hunt Morgan did their work that we started to understand this chromosomal basis of inheritance. Now we can talk about evolution as being this change in allele frequencies in a population, which of course is going to be related to the traits that we see in the population, since alleles are different forms of genes that lead to different phenotypes. Let's say that we've got this group of rabbits, this first generation, these 10 rabbits, each of them have 2 alleles for fur color. And let's say that dominant is brown and recessive is white. And in these 10 rabbits, due to the number of homozygotes and heterozygotes, we have 10 big A's and 10 little a's. Therefore, 10 out of 20, or 50%, a 0.5 frequency of the dominant allele, and the same, a 0.5 or 50% frequency of our recessive allele. Should some of these rabbits not contribute to the gene pool, we're going to be left with only the alleles being contributed by these reproducing rabbits. So perhaps we end up with only 30% of the recessive allele left, and we have an increase 70% of that dominant allele because we have changed the allele frequencies, and therefore we are also changing the incidence of these different traits. Evolution has occurred. Those changes in allele frequencies, evolution can lead to some shifts in phenotype. We're going to look at 3 different types of selection, these shifts in phenotype. Let's say that we've got this group of mice and they vary in fur color from very light to very dark. We're starting with a normal distribution where lots of average, a few on the extremes. Stabilizing selection is going to favor being an intermediate or average color. The mice that are medium colored are more likely to survive and reproduce. The very light, the very dark colored mice don't reproduce. We're going to see more and more average. This is stabilizing where average is best. Directional, this is where we're going to favor one extreme over the other. We're going to shift to darker or shift to lighter or shift to bigger or smaller, whatever trait it is that we're looking at. Something is not beneficial to be lighter, it's more beneficial to be darker, and over time we're going to see more and more mice be born with darker colors. Maybe some change in the environment led to better camouflage with that darker color. Disruptive, which can also be called diversifying selection. This one is super interesting. It's kind of the opposite of stabilizing. In stabilizing selection, average is best. We're going to survive best if you are some intermediate average trait. But in disruptive selection, being average is the worst. It's best to be very light or very dark, but not in the middle. We're going to see this diversifying shift to the 2 extremes away from the average. We can also classify our examples of artificial selection into these different types of selection. Remember that artificial selection, which we can also refer to as selective breeding, is one of our pieces of evidence for the theory of evolution. We started with some wolves. Wolves evolved into dogs based on selective pressures put on by us humans. Lots and lots of disruptive selection here as we got some dogs that were bigger and some that were smaller, and some were furrier and some were less furry, and some were more aggressive and some were less aggressive. Lots and lots of disruptive selection. When we're looking at corn, our evolution from the wild teosinte into corn and maize, here we definitely have directional selection as we have bred our corn to have larger cobs and larger kernels. So what's kind of fun with our gene pools is that we can actually do some math with those allele frequency numbers. 2 scientists, Doctors Hardy and Weinberg, contributed to our Hardy-Weinberg equation, which we are going to derive here. So let's go ahead and call our dominant allele for some trait P, and our recessive allele is going to be Q. So same idea as capital and lowercase, we're just using P and Q instead. If I have a gene and there's only one dominant and only one recessive allele, then we know that all of the alleles in the gene pool have to be either dominant or recessive. So the sum of the dominant allele plus the recessive allele frequency has to add up to 100% as a decimal that's equal to 1. I can then do some fun algebra and square both sides. Because this is a binomial, we're going to have to do some FOIL, first, outer, inner, last, and we're going to end up with p squared plus pq plus pq plus q squared equals 1 squared is still 1. We can simplify this to p squared plus 2pq plus q squared equals 1. Easy peasy algebra. But what's kind of fun when we relate this to genetics, p squared, if p is our dominant allele, then 2 p's is 2 dominant alleles. That's homozygous dominant. 2 q's similarly is going to be 2 recessive alleles. That's going to be homozygous recessive. And our pq's, this is the frequency of heterozygotes in our population. And we can use that equation to solve problems like this one. Let's say that I've got a population of pea plants. White flowers are recessive to purple flowers are dominant. If I have 8 plants with white flowers and 42 with purple flowers, I need to figure out how many plants are heterozygous. Remember that Hardy-Weinberg equation says P plus Q equals 1, where P is the frequency of the dominant allele and Q is the frequency of the recessive allele. When I square both sides of this equation, P squared plus 2PQ plus Q squared still equals 1. If I have 2 of the dominant alleles, this is homozygous dominant. 2 of the recessive alleles, this is homozygous recessive. My heterozygotes, this is the 2PQ number in the middle. So to find the number of heterozygous plants, I need to figure out P and also Q. How are we going to do that with only 2 numbers given to us in the problem? So 8 and 42 give us a total number of 50 plants. I need to know that I have 50 total plants so that I can calculate some frequencies. 8 white flowered plants out of 50 total gives me a 0.16, 8 divided by 50, 0.16 frequency of these white flowered plants. To get white flowers, which are recessive, we need to be homozygous recessive. Homozygous recessive is Q squared, so 0.16 is equal to Q squared. My other 42 out of the 50 flowers, 42 out of 50, that's 0.84. My purple is a little bit trickier because to be purple, you can either be homozygous dominant or you can be heterozygous. And I've got 2 variables in this equation, super hard to solve when you've got 2 variables. This guy right here, this is where we need to start. Only 1 variable in Q squared equals 0.16. If Q squared, homozygous recessive, has a frequency of 0.16 and I take the square root of both sides, Q is equal to 0.4. That means that 40% of the alleles in this gene pool are recessive alleles. And because P plus Q equals 1, because P plus Q equals 1 and Q equals 0.4, P plus 0.4 equals 1, I can subtract 0.4 from both sides. P is going to equal 0.6. That means that 60% of the alleles in the gene pool are dominant. That makes sense if I only have recessive and dominant alleles. That has to add up to 100%. 40% are recessive alleles, 60% are dominant alleles. So now I can figure out my 2PQ number of heterozygous plants. 2PQ is heterozygous. So I'm going to do 2 times P is 0.6 times Q is 0.4. 2 times 0.6 times 0.4 is going to give us, handy dandy calculator time, 2 times 0.6 times 0.4 looks like 0.48. So 2PQ tells us that the frequency of heterozygotes is 0.48. This does not mean that we have 48 heterozygous plants. It tells us that 48% of our 50 total plants are heterozygous. So be super careful with your math. Don't assume that this number is the final answer. 48% or 0.48 of the total number of plants are going to be heterozygous. So 0.48 times 50, 48% of those 50 plants is going to give us 24. 24 is the number of plants that are heterozygous. The Hardy-Weinberg equation gives us math about the allele frequencies in a gene pool. For us to maintain Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium, 5 conditions must be met. We have to keep a large population. Mating has to be random. We can't have any new mutations adding new alleles to our gene pool. No gene flow. We can't have new alleles being introduced or exiting our gene pool. And we can't have any selective pressures. Natural selection cannot be occurring. There cannot be an advantage for having one trait over another, one allele over another. These 5 conditions should sound awfully familiar because they are the opposite of the 5 fingers of evolution. Pretend like that's a hand. Our 5 fingers of evolution, where evolution occurs if we've got a small population, if we have non-random mating, if we have mutations, if we have gene flow, if we have thumbs up for natural selection adaptations. So equilibrium will occur when no evolution is occurring. Our allele frequencies stay constant. Evolution occurs when we do not meet these 5 conditions, when our allele frequencies change. And on that note, my friends, we have accomplished another video lecture. We talked about these guiding questions, processes that cause changes in allele frequencies, all those super kinds of selection, and the role of reproduction in the process of natural selection. We must be passing traits on to offspring for natural selection to drive evolution. We defined gene pool, all the alleles for a trait in a population. We talked about evolution as the change in gene pool frequencies. We looked at different types of selection, directional, where we're going to move from one extreme to another, stabilizing, where average is best, disruptive, where average is worst. We talked about the Hardy-Weinberg equation. You need to have this memorized. P plus Q equals 1. We can square both sides. P squared plus P, 2PQ plus Q squared also equals 1. Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium occurs when evolution is not occurring. Well done today, my friends.